Good morning, students. I welcome you all for the class. Today, in this class, we are going to discuss regarding deadlock avoidance. So, in the last class, what we have seen in the last class, we have seen regarding different deadlock handling methods, right? So, what are the different deadlock handling methods in the sense? The first one is deadlock prevention. Already we have seen it. And second one is deadlock avoidance. And the third one is deadlock detection and recovery. And the finally, ignoring the deadlock. So, these are the four methods in order to handle a deadlock situation. Like you people all are well aware of like what do you mean by a deadlock and everything is fine. So in the last class we have seen regarding a deadlock prevention. Prevention in the sense we are not at all allowing a deadlock to enter into the system. So in order to do that, what we have done in the sense like we are taking preventive measures from the starting itself. So we are going to make like if a deadlock want to occur in the sense the four necessary conditions should be there. What are the four necessary conditions? Mutual exclusion, hold and wait, circular wait, and no preemption. So, if these four conditions are there, we can say that the system is under the deadlock. So, deadlock prevention in the sense what we have done, we are violating any one of the four necessary conditions. I am not telling you to violate all the four conditions, like any one of the condition if you are violating in the sense like we will be free from the deadlock situation. So how we have violated, the first one is like an removal of mutual exclusion. So it is hardly impossible. Why? Because we can't make a non-shareable resource to the shareable resource. For example, we have taken a printer. That printer is a non-shareable resource. If we make the printer in a shareable mode, what will happen? Like it is going to get stuck or blocked state. Why? Because a printer at a time it can do only one document to be printed. Like both the documents we can't combine and it can't do the printing, as you all know, fine. So no mutual exclusion or removal of mutual exclusion, in the sense it is highly impossible and infeasible. And what we have seen, the next one is hold and wait. Hold and wait in the sense like a process should hold one resource and it has to request for the another resource. If that situation is there, then the deadlock will occur. Now what we have to do, removal of hold and wait. Removal of hold and wait, what are the three things we have done? First, what are the resources or what are the things we need to perform a task? Those resources we are acquiring at the beginning itself. So that is one condition. But what the drawback we have faced with that? Resources are infeasible resources are there. Like utilization of resources is not good. Why? Because if I want printer in the sense for 1 hour, if the printer I'm keeping myself in the sense, nobody can use that printer. So printer is not working. So resources are not utilizing properly. That is the drawback. Like that, we have seen different preventive measures by removing the mutual exclusion, by removing the hold and wait, by removing the circular wait, and by removing the no preemption. So that is the deadlock prevention. And today in this class we are going to see one of the another deadlock handling method, which is known as deadlock avoidance. Avoidance in the sense I have given you an example. These are the second cadre of students. They don't want 80 to 90% of marks. They just want a pass marks. But what they are doing, they are avoiding the failure. So these are the second handling method. So avoiding the failure. So we are avoiding the system not to get into the failure. So how we are going to avoid in the sense by making use of one of the thing which we are going to learn today is the resource allocation graph. Fine. Resource allocation graph and the banker's algorithm will be there. And today we'll be going to look after like how we are going to avoid a deadlock by making use of resource allocation graph. Fine. So deadlock avoidance means the operating system, the operating system has to do is it has to check always whether the system is in deadlock situation or not. Deadlock situation or not in the sense like in other terminology, in this deadlock avoidance terminology, we can say that there are two different states. So what are the two different states in the sense? The first one is the safe state, and second one is the unsafe state. Safe state in the sense no deadlock. Next one is unsafe in the sense deadlock state. So these are the two states. In unsafe state only we'll be going to have the deadlock. But when it comes to the safe state, we shouldn't bother about the deadlock. Why? Because when we are telling a system is safe in the sense it is free from the deadlock. When we are telling a system is unsafe in the sense I'm not telling you there will be, there compulsory there is a deadlock, maybe a chances of deadlock. So whatever we all are talking is a system, it doesn't mean that every system should be in deadlock. Maybe sometimes in worse situations will undergo a deadlock. So maybe condition is there, but not that is present in that condition won't be there. Fine. So here in this deadlock avoidance, like deadlock avoidance, the operating system checks whether the system is in safe state or unsafe state. So for each and every action it is going to perform, before performing that action, this operating system, what it will be going to do is it will be checking for the state of the system, whether it is safe or unsafe. At every step the operating system performs. The process continues until it is in safe state. Suppose if once the system, operating system, encounters an unsafe in the sense, it will be stepping back ahead one step. So that is how we'll be going to have. So what is a deadlock avoidance algorithm? So what is this algorithm will do is it dynamically examines the resources allocation state. So when we are going to talk in this deadlock avoidance algorithm, like what we are going to discuss is like a resource allocation graph, is it not? Resource allocation graph in the sense like you will be going to have resources as well as the processes. So when we are going to talk regarding the resource allocation graph, we have to definitely talk regarding the graph. Fine. So I'll be this today we'll be going to discuss regarding this resource allocation graph. Fine. So here basically here what we'll be going to do is we'll be going to have a graph in the sense you'll be going to have vertices as well as the edges. Fine. Graph in the sense we used to have vertices as well as edges. Fine. In this vertices you will be going to again have process vertices and resource vertices. Here the process is going to be represented with what it is going to be represented with a circle, when the resource is going to be represented with a square. Fine. Here processes means we are going to represent with a circle, and when it comes to the resource we'll be going to represent with the square. And when it comes to the edges are also two types: allocation edge, allocating edge, and next one is the requesting edge. Fine. So as we are talking with this resource allocation graph, so allocation graph, why we are going to make use of the resource allocation graph in deadlock avoidance in the sense, so when we are aware of the resources, which process is handling which resource, if we are aware of that, like we can say by seeing that resources and everything whether the deadlock will occur, may occur or not. So that is the reason why we are going for the resource allocation graph. If the resources, the instances are more in the sense, we will not go for resource allocation, like we will be going for the Banker's algorithm. If the resources are less number in the sense, we will be going for the resource allocation graph. If the instances of the resources and resources are more in the sense, we will be going for the Banker's algorithm. Banker's algorithm will be going to deal in the next class. In this today's class, we will be going to discuss regarding this resource allocation graph. So as we are talking regarding the graph in the sense a graph should have a vertices as well as the edges. So what are the vertices in the sense? There are two types of vertices: process vertices and the request vertices. These process vertices are P1, P2, P3 and so on, Pn. Fine. And when it comes to the resources, it just in the resources in the sense R1, R2, R3 till Rn. So these are the resource vertices. So I'll be going to draw you a simple diagram so that in that you will be going to have what are the process vertices and what are the resource vertices. So here we'll be going to see with an example that, so here is an example diagram. So this is an example diagram. So here we are going to have processes. As I have said you before, processes will be there which is going to represent with a circle, and resources which are going to represent with a square. Fine. So here processes are, we are going to represent with a circle, and resources we have represented with a square. So here what are the set of processes we are having in the sense, here we are having P1, P2, P3 and P4. These are the P3 processes. These are the three processes we are having. Fine. So P1, P2, P3 are the three processes we are having. And what are the resources we are having? R1, R2 and R3 are the resources we are having. So R1, R2 and R3 are the resources we are having. And what are the edges we are having? So P1 to, like here one more thing I have to say is like, as I have said you, processes will be represented with a circle and resources will be represented with a square. Here if you have seen these diagrams, you are going to find the dots. Those dots we call it as an instances. Those dots we call it as an instances. What do you mean by an instance? Suppose we are having 4 CPUs. We are having 4 CPUs. So that R4 is having 4 CPUs. That means 4 instances of CPUs are going to be handled with the resource R4. Resource R4 in the sense like these instances represent how many? Like the instances means how many are there. Here R3 is having a single instance, that means a single CPU is there. Here R2 is having 2 instances, that means 2 CPUs are there. Resources may be not a CPU, it may be anything, it may be a printer, it may be a scanner, it may be a monitor, it may be a memory, whatever it may be, we call it as a resources. For example sake I'm saying like what do you mean by an instance in the sense it is a resource. Like instances in the sense resources, how many instances this R2 is having. See here R2 is having 2 instances, and one instant is held with the processor P2, and P1 is requesting for another instance. Fine, like that you have to say. So here when it comes to the edges in the sense like P1 here when we are going to we can say this allocating our assigning edge. Allocating edge or assignment edge. Fine. So here P1 when we are going to say that P1 to RJ, if the edge is from P1 to RJ process to R1 in the sense this is the assignment edge. Fine. Suppose when we are seeing R3 to resource to P3, this is we call it as an allocated. This is allocated. So suppose from P1 to R2 means P1 is requesting the resource R2. So what we call it as P1 to R2 in the sense like P1 is requesting for the resource, we call it as an requesting edge. Fine. This is the brief introduction of a graph. Fine. So when we are going to deal with this resource allocation graph contains vertices and edges. What are the vertices in the sense? Process vertices are there, resource vertices are there. Process vertices are represented with P1, P2, P3 till Pn, and it is represented with circle shape. When it comes to resource, we are going to represent with R1, R2, R3 till Rn. Resources are going to be represented with circle. Another thing I have said is instance. Instance in the sense we are going to make a dots. These dots we call it as an instances. Instances in the sense how many resources are there. Suppose this is a resource R5. R5 is having 3 instances. R5 is having 3 instances. That means R5 is going to have 3 resources. That may be one resource may be CPU, one resource may be printer, and one resource may be scanner. Whatever it may be, R5 is having 3 instances. Fine. So when we are going to have edges, P1 to R1 is one edge. So P1 to R1 is one edge. And next one, P1 to R2 is one edge. And next one, R2 to P2 is one edge. Like that, what are the edges we are having? All the things we have to dump over here. So that is the edge matrix. So what are the process matrix in the sense? P1, P2, P3. Resources in the sense the set of, what are the set of processes in the sense? P1, P2, P3. What are the set of resources in the sense? R1, R2, R3. What are the set of edges in the sense? P1 to R1 and P1 to R2, R2 to P2, and suppose P2 is requesting again for R3, R3 to P3, and R3 requesting for is allocated to P3. So like this, what are the edges we have been there? So all the edges we have to write in the edges matrix. So why I have given you the example is in order to have the terminology, what is a process and how it is going to be represented, and what is a resource, how it is going to be represented, and what are the instances. This is important. What are the instances and how they are going to be represented. Instances are represented with the dots. Fine. So this is the brief introduction regarding the graphs. So here when we are talking deadlock avoidance, so here safe state and unsafe state and a deadlock state commonly. Fine. Safe state in the sense if the system when we call that a system is in safe state. So when we call in the sense, suppose if we are going to have suppose if you are going to have suppose the process P1 is there. So process P1 is there and resource R1 is there, and process P2 is there and resource R2 is there. Fine. Process P1 is having the resource R1 and process P2 is having the resource R2. Fine. So when we are going to say that a system is safe if the system can allocate all the resources requested by all the process without entering into a deadlock. Suppose when you are going to see over here, now like P1 request for R2, P1 is not requesting R2, so it is safe. P2 is requesting only the resource R2. Suppose if R3 is there, and if P2 is having the resource R3, then the system is safe. If P1 is also asking for resource R3 and this R3 is handled by any of the process P4, then we say that it is a deadlock system. Fine. So but here the situation is not like that. Here the situation is not like that. So and we are going to say that a system is safe in the sense if allocate all the resources requested by all the processes. Suppose if P1, P2, P3 are there. Fine. So if P1 resources are R1, R2, R3 and R4 are there. If P1 wants R4, we allocate this P1 to R4. If P2 wants R1, we allocate this R1 to P2. If P3 wants R2, we allocate this to P2. Here there is no chance of deadlock. Why? Because when we are going to say that a deadlock will occur in the sense, if it forms a circle, then we are going to say that a deadlock has been occurred. Here there is no cycle, so we can say that a system is safe. So if this cycle is not there, we say that the system is safe. If this cycle is present, then we say that the system is unsafe. And the deadlock state, as you already know. So as I have said you, as I have said you, suppose P1 is requesting for R1, fine, and R1 is held with P2. P2 is requesting for R2 and R2 is held with P1. So here we forms a circle. This state we call it as a deadlock state. If no deadlock, we say that it is an unsafe state. If it is a deadlock, we say that it is an unsafe state. So here there are different states. There is the first one is the safe state. That means no circle means then we say that it is a safe state. So if circle is there, there may be a chance of deadlock. Fine. If circle is there means there may be a chance of deadlock, but I'm not say that if circle is there then there will be a deadlock. Maybe there will be a chance, I'm mentioning it as a will be, there will be a chance of system getting into the deadlock. If no circle, in the sense I can say that there is no deadlock. No circle, no deadlock, it is guaranteed. But when if there is a circle, in the sense there may be a chances of getting the deadlock. That second state we call it as an unsafe state, which we also call it as a deadlock state. Fine. Here is, now we are going to talk about the resource allocation graph. As I have said you the introduction, resource allocation graph is explained to us what is the state of the system in terms of processes and resources. Why resource allocation graph? In the sense, like how many processes are there, how many resources are there, how many resources allocated to which process is requesting which resource. All the things we will be going to know clearly in the resource allocation graph. Suppose if you are going to have more number of processes and more number of resources, then we have to go for the Banker's algorithm. But here, when we are going to have limited number of resources and limited number of instance of resources, then we can go for the resource allocation graph. This resource allocation graph, in short, we call it as an RAG. Don't get confused. RAG in the sense resource allocation graph. What is RAG in the sense? RAG shows that how many processes are there, how many resources are there, which process requesting which resource, which process allocated to which resource. So everything we'll be going to see in a graphical tab. So that we say it as a resource allocation drag. So see here, like how many resources are available, how many are allocated, and how many are requested. So that we'll be going to see. Everything is represented in terms of the diagram. So one of the advantage of diagrammatic representation is, like by seeing that diagram only we can say that whether the deadlock has been formed in the system or not. Fine. If you are going to get a cycle, so we can say that the deadlock has formed, and by seeing that graph with the minimum resources, we can then and there itself we can say that a deadlock is there in that system. By seeing that graph only we can say, but then you might be able to know by looking at the table. Fine. But tables are better if the system contains lots of processes and resources. As I have said you, if number of processes and resources are more, in the sense like the tabular form is, table is good. If less number of process and resources, in the sense a graph is good. Fine. So as we all know, resource allocation graph, a graph is going to contain vertices and edges. Vertices in the sense process vertices and resource vertices. Process vertices, every process will be represented as a process vertices, will be represented with a circle. Resource vertices will be represented with a square. So multi-resource instant type, in the sense like here we will be going to represent like this or else like this. Instances, there are 4 instances of resource R5. These we call it as an instances. Fine. So resource allocation graph. So process vertices, resource vertices, and this resource single instance and multiple instance. When we are going to have a single resource, we call it as a CPU. When multiple instance, in the sense when we are going to have many resistors, like as we have seen many of the resistors, accumulator resistors, stack resistors, all the resistors will be many. So with that we will be going to represented with multiple instance. Fine. So edges, when it comes to the edges, assigning edge and the requesting edge. So assigning edge, in the sense, so from our resource we are going to P. This is assignment edge. Why? Because this resource has assigned to this process. Requesting in the sense when process is requesting for the resource, we call it as an requesting edge. See here, here the process, from the process towards the resource in the sense, we call it as a requesting edge. So towards the process from the resource in the sense, we call it as an assignment edge. So in different textbooks we'll be going to have different one, like if from, like if the arrow is from the process towards the R in the sense, process is requesting the resource. If the process like this in the sense, the process has allocated this particular resource, this is allocation, this is requesting. So this is how resource edge and the allocation edge will be going to have. Fine. And next one is like we'll be going to deal with single instance resource allocation graph and multiple instance allocation graph. What I have said you, instance, single instance in the sense, this is the single instance. And what do you mean by multiple instances in the sense, if you are going to have many resources, this is the multiple instance. Fine. So if there is a cycle in the resource allocation graph and each resources in the cycle provides only one instance, then the processes will be in deadlock. Fine. So now we will be going to see an example. See here, here there are two processes, process P1 and process P2. So by seeing the graph only we can say that whether it is in deadlock situation or not. Yeah, here we are going, suppose if we are going to start with P1, so here again we will be going to reach P1. Fine. So from here we have started and again we have reached here. That means here it formed a circle. Then we can say that the system is under the excuse me, the system is under the deadlock. Fine. Here process P1 is there, process P2 is there. P1 is holding the resource R1. Why? Because this towards edge is holding the resource. From process towards resource in the sense, it is a requesting edge. See here, process P1 towards R2 in the sense, P1 is waiting for the resource R2 and this R2 is holding by P2 and this P2 is waiting for R1. Fine. Here we formed a circle. So when we are going to form a circle, then we can say that the system is going to have a deadlock situation. So that for that we will be going to say that deadlock has been occurred. By seeing this only we can say that the deadlock, if you are going to have a circle in the sense, a deadlock has been occurred. So now we will be going to see single instance without deadlock. So single instance without deadlock. So when we are going to check without deadlock in the sense, suppose we have to find out the resources which is not waiting. So without, by seeing the graph only we can identify whether the system is in deadlock or not. Fine. How we have to identify in the sense, the first step is we have to find the process which is not waiting for any resource, which is not waiting. Fine. So if we are finding this, if any resource is not waiting for, if any process is not waiting for any resource in the sense, then that system will not be in a deadlock. See here, here P1 is holding the resource R1. So P1 is holding the resource R1. Here I will be right. P1 is holding the resource R1. And again P2 is holding the resource R2. P2 is holding the resource R2. And here P1 is waiting for anything? No, P1 is not waiting, P1 is not waiting. Is P2 is waiting for any other resource? No, P2 is not waiting. And P3, here P3 is waiting for R1 and P3 is waiting for R2. So P3 is waiting for R1 and P3 is waiting for R2. Fine. Here we will not going to find any sort of deadlock. So P1 is having the resource R1 and P2 is having the resource R2. But P3 is waiting for resource R1 and R2. if process P1 or P2, first either of the process completed its task first. Suppose we'll say that P2 has completed its task first. So what it will be going to do? It will release the resource R2. Now R2 is free. Now R2 is free. So now P1 got the resource R2. After some time, P1 also will complete its task and it releases the R1. Now the R1 is also free. Now P3 is having the resource R1 and P3 is having the resource R2. So that now P3 can complete its task. So this is the single instance resource allocation graph without deadlock. Fine. If you are going to have a multiple instances, like how we are be going to see if you are having multiple instances. So till now we have single instance with deadlock and without deadlock. And now we'll be going to see multiple instance with deadlock and without deadlock. First we'll be going to see without deadlock. So when we are going to see multiple instances, so if single instances means no problem. If multiple instances, in the sense we have to construct the allocation matrix and the request matrix. So how we are going to construct allocation and request matrix, I'll be going to tell you now. Fine. So here you will be going to have the process P1 holding R1 and waiting for R2, and here process P2 holding the resource R2 and waiting for P1, and process P3 holding the resource R3. Here P3 is not waiting. P3 is not waiting. So not waiting in the sense, will you get deadlock? Will we find deadlock? No. P3 is not waiting in the sense. So here P3 has allocated this R2 resource. After completing this P3, after completing the task of P3, what P3 will do? P3 will release this R2 resources. Now this R2 resource is also available here. So this won't be there. Now here P2 is there. P2 is waiting for R1. Fine. So here R2 is available. So here P1 is waiting for R2. Here we are going to have the availability of R2. Now P1 will be going to make use of this. After utilizing this, what P1 will do? P1 will release this R2. P1 task completed. Then P1 is holding R1. So it will also release this R1. So when R1 is free, then P2 is going to take R1 and it will also complete the task. What I mean to say is, first if we are going to given a graph and we have to find whether the deadlock is there or not, first what we have to find is, we have to find the processes which are not waiting for any resources. Not waiting for any resources. So P3 is not waiting for any resource, so that there is no chance of getting into the deadlock. Now how we are going to make a table? So here in this table, processes. So what are the processes? P1, P2 and P3 are the processes. So we have written P1, P2 and P3. Next, allocation resource and request resource. That means like how many here I will be going to say. So P1, P2 and P3 are there. Now allocation and requesting. So allocation of R1 and R2 and requesting of R1 and R2. So P1, first you check P1. For P1, which process has been allocated? Which resource has been allocated? R1 resource has been allocated. So you have to keep 1 at the place of R1. Fine. And R2, P1, did any resource allocated to P1? No. So R2 is not allocated, so we have to keep 0. Now check for P2. P2 has allocated 1 instance of R2, right? So 1 instance of R2, in the sense we have to keep 1 instance in the R2. P1 is, any P1 has been allocated? No. R1 is not allocated, so we have to keep 0. Now coming for P3. P3 has been allocated means any one instance in resource R2, one instance has been allocated to P3. So one instance has been allocated to P3, so you keep R2. So one resource of R2 is allocated to P3. So allocated in the sense you have to keep 1. So resource R1 allocated? No. So 0. So this is the allocation matrix. Now come to the requesting matrix. So P1 is requesting for P1, this P1 is requesting for R2. So near R2 keep 1 and R1 0. And next P2. P2 is requesting for P2 is requesting for R1, keep 1 in the place of R1 and remaining 0. Then P3. P3 is requesting for R1 and R2. No, it is not requesting for R1, not requesting for R2. So this is how you have to create the matrix. So this is the matrix 1 0 0 1. Now what you have to do is you have to check the availability of resources. So availability of resources R1 comma R2. So any resources are available, we have to check. R1, any resource available? No, this one resource is given to P1. R2, no, one resource is given to P2 and one resource is given to P3. So R1 is 0 available and R2 is 0 available. So now available resources are 0 and 0. So here availability or available resources is equals to R1, R2, 0, 0. Now available resources are 0, 0. Now what we have to see is with this 0, 0, can we fulfill any of the process requests? We have to check. Request we have to check. Yes, we can fulfill the process P3 request. Process P3 is 0 and 0. So that if process P3 request is fulfilled, what it will be going to do? It will be going to release the allocation of resources. Now here it will be going to release this one. Now what is the available matrix now? Now 0 R1 resources and R2 resources P3 has released. So 0 1 is there. Now the available is equals to 0 1 resources. Are you getting what I am saying? So first you will be going to see what are the available resources. So here this resource 1 is given to P1. So R1 is 0 resource available. Check R2 resources. One resource is given to P2 and one resource is given to P3. R2 available resources are 0. So now the availability is 0 and 0. With this 0 and 0, can we fulfill any of the request? Yeah, P3 request we can fulfill. So P3 needs 0 and 0. So we are also having 0 and 0. It means that P3 is not waiting. So what I am telling you to understand. So 0 and 0, here 0 and 0. So what P3 will do is, P3 is satisfying. So it will release the resource R2. Previously the available resources are 0 and 0. Now after releasing, as P3 task completed, it is going to release the resource R2. Now the available, this is the first phase. And second phase, what is the availability? 0 comma 1. That means 0 of R1 resources and 1 resource of R2 is available. With this 0 and 1, can we fulfill any of the process request? 0 and 1. Yes, we can fulfill the process P1 request. So process P1 request we can fulfill. So 0 and 1 in the sense already one resource is available. Fine. If we are going to give this 0, 1 over here, so this P1 will be satisfied and it release R1 and 0. Now here, now in the third phase, you will be going to have R1 1 and R2 how many? 2 resources we will be going to have. 1 and 2. Fine. And next, so now we are going to have 1 and 2. So with 1 and 2, can we fulfill anything? So here we need P2 request 1 and here 0. So that request is going to be fulfilled. So P2 after releasing it will be going to get the 2. So this is how we have to see with the available resources, are we fulfilling any of the resource requests? Yes, with 0 0 I am fulfilling 0 0 in the sense it will release R2 resources. So previously it was 0 0. After P3 releasing, it will be 0 comma 1. With this 0 comma 1, can we satisfy anything? Yes, 0 comma 1 we can satisfy P1. So P1 is 1 0. P1 needs 0 comma 1 and what it is released? 1 comma 0. So here previously it is 0 comma 1 and now it is 1 comma 0. Totally now it will be 1 comma 1. So if it is 1 comma 1, can we fulfill any request? Yeah, P2 needs one resource. So we will be going to allocate P3. So if you are allocating P3, P1 and P2, then it is a safe state. Then no deadlock will be occurring. If we are not following this thing, then we will be going to say that there may be a chances of deadlock. So this is how you will be going to have multiple instances without a deadlock. Fine, I think it's clear for you. And so that explanation is over here. So initially the available resources are 0 0 and P3 is fulfilling this 0 0. So it releases 0 comma 1. So 0 comma 1 P3 releasing. Now this 0 comma 1 is available. So can we fulfill anything? 0 comma 1 in the sense P1 can be fulfilled as using a new variable. P1 is fulfilling and it is what P1 will release. What is the allocation? 1 and 0 it will release. P1 will release 1 and 0. Now previously it was available was 0 comma 1. Now it was 1 comma 0. Now new available is 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Now newly available is 1 plus 1. So with this 1 and 1 can be satisfied? Yeah, here one resource I need. So P2 will satisfy. So what P2 will do? P2 will release 0 and 1. P2 will release 0 and 1. So 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. Like this we will be going to have newly available resource are 1 and 2. So this system is safe. Fine. So we'll see this is the explanation of the thing what I have said. Fine. Now multiple instances with the deadlock. So previously it is without deadlock. Why? Because there is no circle. So we are telling that it is without deadlock. Here in the for the previous example only I have added one more extra thing, this one. So P3 is waiting for P2. P3 is waiting for P2 in the sense here what will it change? Here P3 is requesting for nothing. So we have kept 0 0. Now if I have created another link, P3 is waiting for R1. So what I have to do? Instead of 0 I have to place 1. That is the only thing it will be going to change. Fine. So here instead of previously it was 0 over here, when P3 is requesting a R1 in the sense, in that place we are keeping this one. Now check the availability of resources. So this is the resource R1, this is the resource R2. There are three processes. Fine. So one resource is there, one resource we have given to P1. Two resources are there, two resources are given to P2 and P3. Now what is the availability? So 0 comma 0. Availability is no availability of resources. Why? Because P1 R1 is under the control of P1. So here R1 is 0. When it comes to R2, one instance is under the control of P2 and another instance is under the control of P3. So here also availability is 0 0. Now with this 0 0 availability, can we fulfill anything? With this 0 0 availability, can we fulfill any of the requests? 0 1 but it is 0 0, 1 0 but it is 0 0. Here it is 1 0 but it is 0 0. So we can't satisfy any of the requests. So this is in deadlock. So this is in deadlock state. As we are not satisfying any of the requests with the available of resources, we say that it is in deadlock. So the available resource is 0, but the requirement are 0 1, 1 0 and 1 0. So you can't fulfill any of the requirement. Therefore it is in deadlock state. Therefore a cycle in multi-instant resource type graph is not a deadlock. If there has to be a deadlock, there has to be a cycle. So in multi-instance graph, if there is a cycle we are going to form. So here, if you are going to see here in the sense, here also R1 to P1, P1 to R2 and again to P2 and again here. Here also we are going to form a cycle. But what it is, the thing is, here we are not going to get the deadlock. That only here it is saying So if you are, therefore every cycle in multi-instance graph is not a deadlock. We can't make it clarity that every cycle is going to be a deadlock. If there is a cycle in multi-instance, then only we can confirm that it is a deadlock. So in case of RAG with multi-instant resources type, a cycle is necessary condition for deadlock but not sufficient. Cycle should be there, then only we can say that it is a deadlock, but still every cycle is not a deadlock. So this is how we are going to plot the resources as well as the processes in a table, and then we'll be going to check whether the system is going to have in the deadlock state or not. So this is how we'll be going to have the deadlock avoidance using resource allocation graph. Simple. What you have to do is, so you have to know regarding the edges. If process from the process towards the resource, in the sense process is requesting the resource, and from the resource towards the process, in the sense that process is allocated that particular resource R2, requesting edge and then the assignment edge. So you, the first that you have to know it. Then what you have to do, you have to plot the availability of allocated resources and the requested resources of different resources. Any processes you are having, what are the processes allocated to that resource and what are that processes requesting to a particular resource. If that is done, if that table has been done, after doing that table, check the availability of resources. With that availability of resources, are we fulfilling any of the process requests? If so, we have to give that availability to the particular process, so that by taking that availability, that particular process will complete its task. Then after completing its task, it will, that particular process will release all its resources. What the resources it has been held, those processes it will be going to release. After releasing that, what it is going to happen, the processes which are requesting for that resources are going to fulfill, so that there will be no deadlock. So this resource allocation graph is better useful when there are limited processes and limited resources. So then it is very much easy to plot this resource allocation graph. If some complicated problems or complicated graphs are there, then it is very difficult to do with resource allocation graph. So at that situation, what you have to do is, you have to go for Banker's algorithm. Fine. And in the next class, like, we'll be going to see the Banker's algorithm. And that's all for today's class, students. So hope you understood. So like, you just practice it by taking a different example, so that it will be very much clear to you. Thank you all, students. Have a great day.